Reminding ourselves again that animals have to adapt to the conditions if they cannot move, or they have to move and relocate and hope to survive, or they just die away. We talked about the polar bears in the east and west in the Arctic Circle and found that they are actually adjusting their diets from seals, sumptuous yummy seals, to berries and grass and other places, moss and seaweed and so on. Obviously they are trying to adjust because they cannot go any further north. They are already north enough. We don't know what happens to their physiology as it gets warmer and warmer, because they have this thick fur seal that doesn't let them get cold even when the winds are howling like mad and the temperatures are at -30, -40 degrees centigrade. But nearly all the animals in the North Pole region are having a hard time. The seals live on and under the ice, but like the polar bears, they have less and less of it. The seals come out and hang out on the sea ice and breathe and rest, and then boom, a polar bear might want to eat them up. The seal pups need holes in the snow to live in, but there is less snow falling. They eat fish, which are moving more and more to the north. The fish eat krill, the little shrimp that love to eat plankton. The plankton photosynthesize, but plankton grows best on the edge of the sea and the sea ice, where there is light and nutrition or fertilizer for them to do photosynthesis. And so there is also less and less of plankton for the krill to eat and for the pups to eat krill. Everything is connected to everything else, as we said, and the seals are also finding it harder to live in this region. But there is a small chance that climate change will help them out anyways, because if the polar bears really do become extinct, my God, let's hope that's not the case, then you will not hear the seals complaining, because then the seals can manage in the water, under the ice, whatever little ice is left, and move and eat fish because they have no predators. It is the bigger enemy that will be gone for the seals. Polar bear is the biggest enemy of seals, and it'll find some way to cope with the other setbacks of disappearing sea ice and krill and so on. Wow, I could go on telling you stories about sad winter animals, because don't imagine that the walrus, the Arctic fox and the snow goose have it easy, not to mention the reindeer. There are millions of reindeer, but there are fewer and fewer of them all the time. Imagine Santa Claus wanting reindeers to go around handing out presents. The reasons for this are connected in a strange way to climate change. Reindeer travel large distances. They cross lots of rivers to do so. The melting ice makes the rivers deeper and wider, and they cannot swim necessarily forever. So lots of reindeer don't make it to the other side. What's even worse, in the freezing rain, it's getting warmer, so instead of snow you will get some changes in the precipitation, and it may come as freezing rain. In the winter, reindeer eat lichen, a little thin grass-like thing that grows on the hard surface. They can smell it all the way through the snow, but instead of snow, freezing rain is more frequently falling because of the warmer temperatures. As the name suggests, this is rain that freezes as soon as it hits the ground. Melting snow refreezes as well, so the icy layer forms over the moss. The reindeer can't get through it. They cannot smell it, and they cannot eat through the frozen rain. And if that goes on for a long time, they obviously die empty with rumbling stomachs. It really is too bad that things are going so poorly for the reindeer, because they can actually help to combat climate change. Researchers of the Swedish university discovered that large herds of reindeer could have an effect on the reflection of sunlight. A dark surface absorbs more heat than light surface. than a light surface. You remember albedo? They carried out research in areas where reindeer were nibbling on the brushes and found that the stripped brushes did indeed make the areas lighter in color. The green was eaten away and they became lighter in color, and so less warm than areas without the nibbling reindeers. So they have evolved over time to live in a cold environment to make sure that they also help the cold places remain cold by making them brighter and reflecting the sunlight. So it would be handy if there were more reindeers for the polar bear, the seal, and the Arctic fox too. And for the yucca. What is a yucca? We'll come back and see it. Yay for the yucca. Should I read it? Let's leave it for now, and let's make a few more points here about all these animals and climate change and biology as a whole. So nature makes the rules, the physics, the chemistry, right? So if there is CO2 in the air, it traps more energy, temperatures get warm. If temperatures get warm, humidity increases and rainfall becomes crazier, and snowfall can become rain, and rain can freeze, and so on and so forth, and it affects biology. And we said that polar bears can adjust, and maybe seals will adjust if the polar bears disappear. So seals don't mind if polar bears go away. And as you know, you may be living in a neighborhood where there are a lot of deer running around because there is no tiger eating the deer, or there's no leopard eating the deer, and so on and so forth. So the food web, the food chain, and so on are full of predators and prey. Prey is what is eaten, and predator is what eats the prey. And now you imagine that we are changing the nature by increasing CO2 and changing temperature, humidity, rainfall, freezing, thawing, and so on and so forth. And biology sometimes adjusts, sometimes adapts by relocating or adjusting its diet, and so on. So some scientists say that nature makes the rules and biology finds the loopholes. If you are too young to know what a loophole is, don't worry about it. Okay, so maybe I can explain it this way. Let's say mom says don't eat too many candies. That's the rule. And you are smart. You find a loophole. You go and ask dad, can I have a candy? And the dad says, yeah, son, go ahead. Yes, daughter, baby, my girl, go ahead. So then mom's rule has a loophole because dad is not imposing the same rules. So nature also has many rules, and animals and birds have evolved to live in a certain temperature, to breed at a certain time and find the food for the chicks at that time. And the climate changes, the seasons change, and animals change as well. So this is what we call loopholes. So biology often keeps on looking for loopholes, and the fact that you find biology everywhere in the coldest of the cold areas on the North Pole, and even over Antarctica and around the Southern Ocean, and windy and cold and snowy and so on, you still find some form of life, means life does manage to find a way to survive. So some will adjust, some will adapt, some will relocate, but some will go extinct. It's a question of who survives and who goes extinct, and this also depends on how quickly things change. If things change slowly, many more species may adapt and survive, but if things change very rapidly, then many species may go extinct. Okay, so we'll come back and discuss a bit more with yay for yucca. You figure it out how it's pronounced. I will do some homework and come back and see how it is to be pronounced. Okay, see you in the next podcast with the yucca or the yucca. We'll figure out how to pronounce it in the next podcast as well. Okay, children.